slavery in the world. I thought that ended in the 1800s, or I thought that ended in the early 1900s. And the reality is, there's a significant amount of slavery, and depending on what figures you look at, there are more slaves in the world today than any other point in time in history. A number of definitions of modern slavery. The ILO contains a definition, the UN, et cetera. But I think for most people would recognize most forms. It could be sex trafficking. It could be child labor, whether that's in a mine or in a garment factory or the like. But there are other forms of modern slavery that are just as insidious and just as pervasive. Migrant workers who've had to pay exorbitant fees for a job in a foreign country, such that when they get there, they end up spending essentially a long period of time working in what is equivalent of indentured servitude to work off that debt. Or they have their travel documents taken so that they can't return home. So there are lots of different forms of modern slavery. I think what's important for people to know is that many of these are hidden in plain sight. It could be someone who's working in a nail salon in your town, who's doing your nails, but is there because they've paid an exorbitant fee, or they do not feel free to leave, and they're under sort of the indentured servitude of the owner of that nail salon. Or it could be someone who is in your care facility for an elderly relative who has been trafficked in from somewhere in Africa and is living in a house with 20 other people, being forced to work 12, 14 hours a day. We have a crazy case in the UK recently in which a number of people working at McDonald's for a number of years had been trafficked in by a European gang, and McDonald's was paying all of their wages to a single bank account controlled by that gang. So the person who was making your fries and serving you your hamburger was actually someone in modern slavery. That's how much this sort of is hidden right in plain sight. And it's a problem that continues to grow, notwithstanding the UN